welcome to FLT Sports, all things sports fantasy podcast today. Today we're going to talk about our love-hates for week 3, and we're going to give our top 5 at each position: quarterback, tight end, running back, wide receiver. So this is our first fantasy podcast, so let's get right into it. Justin, what do you think about, who do you love this week? What do you got going on for love-hate?
All right, so for my love, I have, and these aren't in any order, the 5. It's not like a ranking.
Right.
I love Devin Singletary because Zach Moss was ruled out, and Singletary's looked great. He just hasn't, he's been splitting half the work.
Right.
So it's been hard to be productive fantasy-wise when you're getting poached at the goal line and when you're losing work to Zach Moss. So Moss is ruled out. I love Singletary this week. I do love Mike Davis this week. And of course, he's not Christian McCaffrey. He's not as talented as Christian McCaffrey, but he is a talented veteran running back, and his workload is what really makes me love him because he's going to get so much work. Even after Matt McCaffrey went down and Mike Davis came in, I mean, he caught a ton of passes.
8 catches.
Yeah, he had 8 catches. I mean, you can tell, like, he is going to, yes, he's not going to be Christian McCaffrey, but he's going to be a workhorse. So I love him for that reason. I love CeeDee Lamb this week. I think that the Seattle-Dallas game is going to be a shootout, and CeeDee Lamb lines up in the slot like 90% of the time, and that's where Seattle's secondary is the weakest, and that's what they're giving up the most yards and most points and most touchdowns is in the slot. And then I have 2 teammates this week. I have Corey Davis versus Minnesota and Ryan Tannehill versus Minnesota. I think that both of them are going to far exceed their projections. Tannehill has just been rock solid, and everybody says, "Oh, it's a fluke. He's
still
fluke.
Underrated.
It was last year," and I mean, so all of last year and then now into this year, he's still been awesome, in real life and fantasy purposes. So I'm just at the point now where I actually have him in a league, and I mistakenly started Minshew.
Okay.
And I'm going to start Tannehill probably from here on out. I mean, he's just been so rock solid. Unless I see something different and drastically different than what I've seen, but he's been giving you 20-plus fantasy points every single week. Mm-hmm. I started Minshew because A.J. Brown was most likely going to be out again, and the last week it didn't matter. A.J. Brown was out, and Tannehill still lit it up. Mm-hmm. So go to your love now.
Okay. I'll do my love, and then we'll do both our hates. I also have Tannehill as my love list. I think he's still underrated, and I think the Vikings D has been less than par this year. So I think Tannehill will have a good game, and I think he needs to get more recognition than he deserves. Jordan Reed is on my love list as well. I think with Kittle out, I think they're not going to skip a beat. I think Jordan Reed has talent, and I think he's going to show it this week. Devin Singletary, also, like you said, love. He's been double as good as Moss has been almost, but they're splitting carries. So now Moss is out. Now I think it's time for Singletary to shine. I think we're going to see that he's a true number 1 running back. Mitch Trubisky is on my love list, and it's because they're playing Atlanta's defense. He hasn't looked the greatest. He had a good game and a bad game, but I think this is going to be his good game against Atlanta's defense. And then I also have John Brown for the Bills. I have 2 Bills players on my love list. John Brown, and the reason why is because Diggs will be up against Jalen Ramsey, and that leaves John Brown up against Troy Hill, where I think it's a good match for him. I think we're going to see a big John Brown game this week. Let's go to our hate list now. We can start this off.
All right, for our hate lists, I have Todd Gurley versus Chicago. Todd Gurley, I don't know what it is,
it's good.
But Atlanta just does not use him in the passing game.
Yeah.
They take him out every time they want to throw the ball, and it's just so weird.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Their line's not great at run blocking, so he's not getting a ton of yards on the ground, and they're just not using him in the passing game. And for fantasy, especially most leagues are PPR, you need your running back to be involved in the passing game.
Yeah.
So I have him as a hate, especially tough matchup. Chicago's defense.
Yeah.
I also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus Baltimore. Baltimore's defense is stacked. Edwards-Helaire has looked good, don't get me wrong, and if you have him, you almost have to start him. But I just think that he's going to, under-exceed. He's not going to score what he's projected to. I don't think he's going to have a big game. I have Drew Brees versus Green Bay. I think it's going to be an Alvin Kamara game. Until Michael Thomas comes back, it's hard to start Breeze with any confidence. So that's why. And then I also have Rodgers versus New Orleans. So both QBs in that matchup.
Wow.
Devontae Adams is most likely going to be out.
Yeah.
And say the Saints defense is good. I think that last week was not a fluke, but just the Raiders offense just really took it to them.
Yeah, I'm going to have to totally agree on your last two picks. But I didn't have Breeze in there. I just have Rodgers. I think it's going to be, but I do agree it's going to be a big defensive game.
And I think it's going to be running backs,
and a lot
Aaron
of running
Jones
too.
and Kamara.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of running,
Yep.
a lot of defense. I think the passing, if you think Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees are going to air it out, but I think it's going to be the opposite.
Yeah. And then I have fifth on my hate list.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you
That's
had
okay.
one.
No, I just got to get my fifth one in there. Julio Jones. I don't know if he's going to play or not, but he's clearly banged up, and it affected him. I mean, he dropped a easy touchdown in the end zone last week, which is very unlike him. He's banged up, and he's playing against a good defense. So even if he plays, like I said, with these guys, some of these guys you probably have to start them depending on your roster, but I really don't trust him this week. And if you do have a good alternative, I would start them over Julio Jones.
Yeah, no, not a bad play.
Yeah,
so I already said Rodgers, but on top of what you just said, and my other hate is Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan is going to drop a dud against the Bears defense. Like you said, Julio banged up. All he's got left is
Calvin Ridley, who's awesome.
Who's been great.
Yeah.
Who's been great, by the way.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley, by the way, I do have him on my top 5 wide receivers. We'll get into that in a minute. Hold that for a second. My next hate is Tyreek Hill. Now, I'm not saying Tyreek Hill's going to have a bad, horrible game. I just think it's going to be a drop-off than what we normally see because he's going to have Marcus Peters covering him. I think we're going to see a big game from whoever the number 2 is, whether it's Sammy Watkins or Michael Hardman. So we'll see what happens there, but I think Tyreek Hill is definitely going to have a drop-off game. It might be a big Kelsey game as well. So we'll see what happens there. That's going to be a tough defensive matchup with him and Marcus Peters against the Ravens. My other hate list, actually, me and you go head-to-head on this one, Mike Davis. Everyone, now I get that Mike Davis is going to have a huge workload against a defense or against an offense that's playbook is designed for Christian McCaffrey. I understand that completely. I just have him on my hate list because I don't think he's going to fill in the shoes of McCaffrey's so talented. I think there's going to be a huge drop-off in production at running back for the Carolina Panthers. I think Davis, might hit around 10 points. That's where I'm having that. So for me, that's a hate. You know what I mean? I said Matt Ryan. My last one, Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith's been on fire in the first 2 weeks. He's got 4 touchdowns already. 2 touchdowns in both games. But he's very touchdown dependent because he only has 4 catches in both games, 8 catches total. So that means half of his catches are touchdowns. He's gonna head drop. You can't keep that up all year. I mean, nobody.
Yeah, you're not scoring 32 touchdowns,
right? So he's gonna eventually drop off this week. I think it'll be this week against Minnesota. So that's my hate list.
Yeah. All right.
Now,
so you want to just do?
Yeah. Now we have our top 5 picks at each position, just the skill positions, no defense and kickers. So let's start off with the quarterback. You want to take it off first?
I'll do my top 5. You do your top 5.
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Yeah.
All right. For my top 5, I have Kyler Murray versus Detroit at 1. He's just been incredible. Detroit's defense is not good.
Yeah.
And Murray's just been great in the passing game, great connection with Hopkins, and then also just
I had
running
him just
the ball.
outside my top 5. I had 6, so I'm not going to mention.
I have him at 1.
Yeah.
I have Russell Wilson at 2. Seattle this year has just completely shifted their philosophy. They're coming out passing.
Yeah.
And even Chris Carson's super talented back, but they're using him a ton in the passing game.
Yep.
So obviously that's great for them if he's just passing and all their touchdowns are scoring.
Metcalf looks great.
Yeah, so this week I think it's going to be a huge shootout between Dallas and Seattle. I actually have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in my top 5.
I agree.
So, so of course, if I have them in my top 5, the receivers, then obviously Russell Wilson's going to have a good game.
I have Metcalf as 5.
At 3, I have Dak Prescott. Just said, I think it's going to be a shootout. So between the Dallas-Seattle game. 4, I have Cam Newton. He's looked great. Running in week 1, he looked amazing.
I have it 4 as well.
And then in week 2, he looked great running as well, but also passing.
Right.
Week 1, he did very little passing, so I was like, okay, are they just running all the time because his arm's not good right now, or what's going on? But then in week 2, you saw him actually throw the ball really well. I haven't seen Cam throw the ball that well since 2015.
Nice.
So I have him at 4. And then at 5, I have Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
And then you know what? I just think that some of these other guys have a better matchup. And Lamar Jackson might have an amazing game, but I wouldn't be shocked if they try and run the ball and keep Mahomes off the field and eat up clock, which is going to hurt if they're not running as many plays. It's less chances to score fantasy points.
Yeah.
So I have him at 5, and then I had Mahomes right behind him, right outside my top 5 at 6.
Okay.
So let's see.
My top 5 quarterbacks, actually, I have Lamar Jackson number 1, and I think it's because of the matchup with the Chiefs. And that leads me to my number 2, Patrick Mahomes. I think that's going to be the best game of the week. Will be the Lamar Jackson, the Patrick Mahomes. Look, get ready for a shootout. I mean, they both have decent. I mean, I know the Ravens have a great defense, and I'm not. But maybe it won't be that high scoring a game, but it will be a lot of touchdowns thrown. So that's my number 2. My number 3, Russell Wilson has been on fire. He's looking for an MVP season. He's not looking for nothing less. He's been outstanding, perfect stats. No throwing, no interceptions, connecting on every pass. Him and Metcalf look like a great connection. Number 4, Cam Newton. Cam Newton also is a race for MVP right now. He's looking amazing on the ground and in the air. He's doing everything. He's doing exactly what I thought he was going to do in New England, was a good Cam Newton. And number 5, Josh Allen. Watch out for Josh Allen. He's looking really good. He's spreading the ball around, moving the sticks. I got him at number 5. We were doing top 5, but I didn't have Kyler Murray right outside. I was thinking about putting him in there. I'll agree with that. Kyler Murray could have a good game too.
All right, you want to go to running backs next?
Running backs.
All right, so my top 5 running backs, I have Kamara versus Green Bay. I think that until Michael Thomas comes back, they're going to have to really lean on Kamara in the passing game and in the running game. Yep. So they're really going to have to lean on him because Thomas is just a huge piece to be missing.
Yep.
Number 2, I have Zeke at Seattle. Kind of keep talking about that game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a shootout. Zeke's going to he's just an do-it-all back. He's going to get involved in the passing game. He's going to get involved in the running game. And number 3, I have Jonathan Taylor. Marlon Mack's out for the year. You saw last week they're just not using Nyheim Hines as much, especially when they have a positive game script. They're playing the Jets. I think they're going to be ahead, so I think they're just going to keep running the ball. So I think it's going to be a big Taylor game, not so much Nyheim Hines game. If they were playing a good opponent and they were going to be behind, then Hines would have obviously more of a role.
Yeah.
But as long as they're ahead and the running game's successful, they're just going to keep pounding the ball. That's what they want to do. Phillip Rivers at the point in his career where it's more short passes, audibling, managing the game. He's not he just doesn't throw deep like he used to.
Yeah.
So, and then I have at 4, I have Austin Eckler.
Ooh.
Great matchup.
Yeah.
Versus Carolina. So far,
they've been the worst so far against the run. Far,
it's not really that fair though,
it's
because look at the 2 running backs that they faced.
But they are the worst right now.
Yeah, so they are. No, I know. So so I think Eckler's going to have an amazing game. I think that even Joshua Kelly from the Chargers is going to have a good game.
Yeah,
he's not in my top 5, obviously, but I think he's going to have a lot of carries and touches
he might get
as well.
A goal line poach too.
And then at number 5, I have Aaron Jones at New Orleans, and we talked about that matchup as well. I think that's going to be
the number 1 running back
it's
right now.
It's going to be a Kamara.
You know that, right? He's number 1. Yeah.
It's going to be a Kamara and Aaron Jones game.
Yeah.
More so than a passing game, especially because Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams are both most likely out.
I couldn't agree more with that.
So
that leaves me on my list. Yeah. I also have Kamara at number 1.
Yep.
So just like you said, we talked about that already. Big defensive game, running game. That's what's going to happen right there. Number 2, I have Eckler.
Okay, I have him at 4.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I think the Carolina matchup is great. And not only that, Carolina's been bad against the pass too. So Eckler has 2 things in favor for him because he's really a receiver.
Yeah.
Also, as much as I think he's more of a receiver. He's like a Sproles type receiving maven.
He's better runner than Sproles.
He can run though. Yeah.
Sproles wasn't this great of a runner as Eckler.
Yeah. No, he's definitely better.
Eckler can run in between the tackles.
He's better than that. Which is more reason to love him.
Absolutely.
So my number 3, Elliott at Seattle. I know you had Elliott on your list as well.
2, yeah.
Great matchup. Elliott's gonna do his thing. And then number 4, Aaron Jones. Man, Aaron Jones is no joke. He's number 1 right now. He deserves it. He's getting touches, he's getting carries, he's getting a lot of yards, getting a lot of touchdowns. He's going to keep going. Number 5, Derrick Henry at Minnesota. This is my prediction for the Minnesota and Tennessee game. I think we're going to see Tannehill in the first half blow up and get a big lead, and in the second half, Derrick Henry. So that's what I think is going to happen with. I think Yeah, that's what's
All
going
right.
to happen.
Yeah, we have 4 out of the 5 were the same.
Yep.
And then I had Jonathan Taylor in my top 5, and I didn't have Henry, and you had Henry and not Taylor. So a little bit different order.
Yeah.
Only one difference in the top
Yep.
5. All right, let's go to wide receivers.
receiver.
All right, I have Hopkins at 1.
So do I.
They're playing Detroit.
Yep.
Him,
a no-brainer.
him and Murray are a great connection, and Detroit doesn't have Darius Slay anymore, so they don't really have any corners that you got to worry
It's the
about.
worst pass defense, I think.
Yeah, so number 2, I have Calvin Ridley. Whether Julio plays or not, Calvin Ridley has just been unguardable. His route running is just
I believe
superb.
he's number 1 right now.
He is.
Fantasy.
He is the number 1 fantasy receiver. I loved him coming into the drafts. I got him, and I'm super happy that I picked him. So whether Julio plays or not, it'd actually probably be a good thing if Julio played to draw the
that's what it is.
coverage.
That's what it is, yeah.
So a lot of people, like, sometimes you want the best receiver on a team, but if you have a really talented number 2 on a team, sometimes that's better.
Yeah.
Because the number 1's going to draw the number 1 corner.
Yes.
He's going to draw safety over the top. He's going to draw bracket coverage. And then you have the number 2 receiver who can just feast on single coverage all game long.
Yeah.
So at 3, I have Adam Thielen. I think Minnesota is going to – I don't know. It's hard for me to think they're going to go 0-3. So I think they're going to have a pretty good bounce back game. I think it's going to be a concerted effort to get Thielen the ball because last week they just looked awful last week. So I think they're going to really try and pepper Thielen with targets. Number 4, I have DK Metcalf, and 5, I have Tyler Lockett. Really rare to have 2 teammates at the same position in the top 5. But they just have such a good matchup. They have such a good quarterback in Russell Wilson, and I truly believe that might be the highest scoring game of the week. Dallas and Seattle. I think it's going to be a shootout.
Yep.
So let's go to your top 5.
Number 1, also Hopkins versus Detroit. That's a no-brainer. One of the greatest receivers in this decade, going against one of the worst pass defense in this decade. So I think the stars are aligned for that game. The collision here. Number 2, I got Robinson, who's been kind of down this year. I'm
a little worried about him.
Yeah, I just think his matchup is amazing.
He has the best matchup.
Yeah, Atlanta. So I
just
think he's going to bounce back this week.
I want to see him bounce back first, and then my only worry is that this is the best matchup for him against Atlanta.
That's what I'm saying.
So if he doesn't feast here, there's a problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so his first 2 weeks, he's been getting 9 to 10 targets a week. So his production's there. He's involved in the game. It's not like he's not getting involved. It's just they haven't been connecting. Trubisky's not been hitting him as much. So I think this week against Atlanta, a little bit of softer defense. I think we're going to see. Like I said, I have Mitch Trubisky on my love list this week. So I think with that being said, you have to follow my philosophy. If you think Trubisky's going to have a good game, like I do, that also means Robinson having number
absolutely.
2. He's usually a great. He usually gets 1,400 yards every season. So I think we're going to see him start to catch back up again.
Yeah.
Number 3, Amari Cooper against Seattle. Seattle is surprisingly allowed 730 yards to opposing receivers in the first 2 weeks. That's the most in the NFL right now. So I think Amari Cooper will have a big game this week. So you never know if Amari Cooper is going to have a good game or is he not. I think this will be one of his big games. When he has a big game, he's always in the top 5. When he has a bad game, he's always somewhere way down 30s, 40s. So I think this is big Cooper game. Number 4, Calvin Ridley. He's just been unstoppable, number 1 receiver. So I can't take him on the list. And then number 5, DK Metcalf, and agreeing with you at Dallas.
Yeah,
26.
That's the juiciest game.
Yeah.
The Dallas-Seattle game for fantasy, for real life, for exciting game.
That's going to be the opposite of what we said with New Orleans.
Green Bay,
I think that's going to be a passing game. That's why I have Cooper and Metcalf both in my top 5.
Yeah.
And I also have Russell Wilson in there as well.
Yeah, I had Cooper just outside my top 5. I had Robinson just outside my top 5. With Robinson, I just want to see it.
Yep.
Before I put him in there, I just want to prove it to me.
Yep.
Your targets are there, but the production so far hasn't been.
Yep.
And it's not even his fault.
Yep.
I mean, just Trubisky just hasn't been. Some of those targets weren't really catchable, and just
Yeah.
So this is definitely, though, if he's gonna have a big game and he's gonna bounce back, this is the week for him.
Yep.
Definitely.
Tight end.
All right, let's go to tight end. I have Mark Andrews versus Kansas City at 1. I think so. My thing is that they don't really have. I mean, they have Marquise Brown, who is a speedster, which draws coverage away, which opens up the middle for Mark Andrews. So I have him at 1. I have Darren Waller at 2.
I also have Darren Waller too.
Yeah, I mean,
He's been great this year.
I'm a Raiders fan, so obviously I've watched every game that he's played.
He's been amazing.
He is so fast, so strong, so big. He's way too fast for a linebacker. He's way too big for a corner. He's too fast for a safety. He's really almost unguardable one-on-one. And I mean, my Raiders just took down the Saints. Go Raiders, just win, baby. And he was unguardable. He had 12 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown. And he was just giving them problems. You saw throughout the game, they kept switching who was guarding him, and nobody was successful. Yep. It was actually who covered him best was Demario Davis.
Yeah, Demario Davis is
the
fast.
linebacker, because he's a fast linebacker and he's almost big enough to really cover him.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever they put Malcolm Jenkins on him, he just crushed him. They just couldn't cover him.
All right.
Number 3, I have Travis Kelce.
Nice.
I think that kind of what you were saying about Hill is might get locked down. And then especially if Sammy Watkins doesn't play, Kelsey's going to be their number 2 target then.
I have him number 1.
And then I have Higbee at 4.
Nice.
Tyler Higbee, he's just, he is part of that offense now. Yeah. They love him. The 3 touchdowns last week is kind of fluky to have 3 touchdowns.
That's true.
But I think he's going to be a tight end 1 the whole season. And then 4, I have Hunter Henry.
Okay.
Carolina's just not good at stopping the pass. And Hunter Henry's been successful, whether it's Tyrod or Herbert at quarterback. And he's tough to cover too. He's a big tight end and he's quick.
Yep.
So that's my top 5. Why don't you give us yours?
Tight end number 1, Kelce. I already said that I think Hill is going to be tied up with his corner. And number 2, Waller. I agree with what you said 100%. Waller's been an unstoppable force on the Raiders right now. Huge part of that offense. 3, Higbee. Higbee is the real deal. He's going to get a lot of touchdowns. I mean, touchdowns are fluky when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to stats in general. But with tight ends, sometimes it's what they do. Sometimes that is what they do. They're known to be red zone.
Especially if they go play action at the goal line, and then they get wide open.
Yeah, so with tight ends, it's not as fluky as a receiver or a running back.
3 of them is fluky.
But 3 is fluky, sure. Number 4, now bear with me. I have 2 at number 4. I have a slash. Ertz, Goddard. So it's going to be one of them. I don't know which one. That's the thing. With the Eagles tight ends, one of them is going to blow up. The other one's going to have an okay game.
You can't start 2 of them in the slot. So you got to pick one for the viewers.
So what's going to happen? No, well, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be between Ertz or Goddard.
But
the answer to that question is a Philly tight end. That's going to be number 4.
But if people have to make a start between the 2,
Ertz.
Okay.
If I had to, I go Ertz.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just for people, I can't start both in one tight end slot.
I did that because I'm saying it's going to be one. It's such a question mark between those 2. Is it going to be Ertz going to be tied up with a good corner and then Goddard's going to be open, or is it going to be Ertz have a monster game and you know what I mean?
So,
you don't know what's going to happen with those 2.
Because I couldn't put 2 of them in one slot. I actually kept them both. They were both right outside my top 5.
Yeah.
They were 6 and 7 because if I'm a fantasy owner and I have another option or I could trade them away or something, I don't want that headache. Is it a Goddard week? Is it an Ertz week?
I just traded Goddard and Mike Davis for Higbee and Bell looking for down the road. Yeah. So it was a pretty even trade.
That's just a headache. And so I had them at 6 and 7, Ertz and Goddard, just outside my top 5 because it's so hard to choose who's going to have a better week this week.
I think one of them is going to be in the top 5, the other one won't. So I don't know. That's why I left it at that.
Okay.
Number 5, Fant against Tampa Bay. Noah Fant's been pretty great this year. I think he's going to keep it going. I think he's going to be a top 5, maybe. Yeah, possibly a top 5 tight end this season.
My only worry is that Driscoll's the quarterback, which is a big drop off from Locke.
That's true.
But
he also might be Driscoll's main target too.
He's kind of built like Waller.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Big,
he's great.
Strong,
super
fast,
talented. Yeah.
His rookie season, he had a lot of drops, but he seemed to have corrected that somewhat.
When tight ends come in the league,
they seem like he's corrected that somewhat though. Yeah. So I mean, if he can start catching the ball consistently, he can be a Waller-like tight end. He really could be.
Oh yeah. So that's our fantasy picks for this week.
All right, guys. Good luck in week 3 fantasy. God bless you. God bless America.